If you want to see me swatch the Mercury Retrograde palette by Huda Beauty, then stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène, and I'm so excited to do this video. I cannot wait to swatch this puppy, but I do want to talk about another special palette, and this one is ultra special. It is a palette collab from a fellow YouTuber called Tiny Marvels, created by Mel Thompson with Sydney Grace. And Sydney Grace is the makeup company, Mel Thompson is the YouTuber. And I am so pleased to be able to feature this palette on my channel. I did swatches, I will put them right there. And I also did this look, which I will also add in this video as a separate link. Super pleased with this one, and I am super happy, super everything. I'm very happy to have created this look. I think it turned out great as a first impressions, and thought I would just mention that because some of the pastel-y colors in here were reminding me of this palette. So I thought that I would at least show you what I'm talking about. So there's a dusty rose right here. There's a beautiful purple here. And I don't know, there are a few of these shadows that make me think that I saw in my mind's eye when I was looking at the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. So I thought I would mention that just in passing. Now there's no green as far as I remember in the Huda palette, and that mantis green right in the middle of the palette is beautiful, and it's kind of replicated in the cover here, as you can see. I don't often mention other palettes in a given palette's swatching video, but in this case, I thought it was merited. And do you have this palette? Do you enjoy the color story, etc.? I would be curious to hear below. As well as, of course, the one we're talking about today. And this one is a palette that I've been really excited about getting as well, but I was not going to get it until there was some sort of a sale, which it did happen. And I have had it in my collection for a number of weeks now, but I don't like to rush into a palette. I like to get into a palette when I'm ready to get into the palette. And since it's been out for a while, I was not in a big rush to crack into this one. But today I am good to go, and we're going to take the plastic off the front, because that's always fun. So it's official. I'm going to be using it, and the plastic is stuck to my hand. All right, so let me see if I can get that on the floor. There we go. Okay, so we're going to be swatching this palette today, and I am excited to be working with some blues in this palette. Oh, there's another. Take care of the mirror too. We get to do that twice with this palette. That's kind of cool. Okay, 2 plastics on the floor. Okay, so let's take a look at this palette. Big mirror, which is nice, and the shadows. And just like a palette that I recently swatched as well, the one by Lawless Beauty, it is 18 shadows total. So I think I'm going to be swatching in sets of 3s, and I'll be going from the top of the palette down. And yeah, there are a number of colors that are similar to the Tiny Marvels for sure, and there is sort of a green, I guess, but the greens are relatively different. This one pulls more to the blue than the one in the Tiny Marvels, but I can see why one was making me think of this one, and vice versa. In Supernova, actually, there's a Tiny Marvels shadow that looks like this. So there's some overlap here, which is interesting. I'm just seeing it now. Okay, interesting. And I'm wondering how much shadow is in each one of the pans. Does it say? Okay, the net weight is 16.1 grams for 18 shadows. So there is a lot less product per shadow in this palette than there is in the one I'm right now comparing it to, which is Tiny Marvels. That one is 30 grams of product. So this palette has half of it. But These are not shadows necessarily that I would use every day. It's not a palette I would reach for every day. So I don't mind the fact that these kind of very different, well, half of them are very different from other stuff I have in my collection, that there isn't that much in each pan. It's not something that's got my nose out of joint, more something that I want to communicate with you. So 18 shadows, there's less than a gram per pan in this one. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Let's get to swatching. So I'm going to be using these 3 fingers, at least for this forearm. And since there are 18 shadows, I'm going to go 9 and 9. 9 swatches on one arm, 9 on the other, and we can superimpose and see the whole palette all at once. Okay. I'm going to stop yapping, and I'm going to start swatching. So I'm going to use these fingers. Let's get right into it. And so I've got Cosmic, very smooth. Utopia, that's a matte, and Ultraviolet, which, if you know me on this channel, you know I like purple, so I'm probably going to like this one. Okay. Cosmic, Utopia, kind of a salmon-y matte, and Ultraviolet. Oh, I like this one, definitely. It's pretty, it's quite pretty. Okay, and I'm going to go and do a second swatch, and here are the fingers. All right, very, very nice colors for the first set of 3. I really quite like Cosmic. It's a pretty standard color though. And this one's Utopia and Ultraviolet. Okay, not a bad start. I'm pretty happy with that. And again, the fingers. Okay, let's wipe those off and we'll go into the next set of 3, which is the second half of the first row. So we're going into these 3 right here. And we have Nebula, Mercury, and Haze. Nebula is pretty chunky. Mercury is less so. And Haze is a minty green matte. Nebula, very glittery. Mercury, that's pretty as well. And Haze. Okay, not bad. Not bad. Okay, let's go into a second swatch. Okay, there's more purple in Nebula than I thought at first. So Nebula and Ultraviolet may be some complementary colors here. Let's see if I'm not really seeing the purple come through though. But on my swatching finger I can see it. And it wasn't the same finger as I used for the Ultraviolet, so that's interesting. Okay, so Nebula, Mercury, and Haze. So that is the first full row right there. And the fingers one last time. It's nice after they've been swatched because to me that's more what it's going to look like on the eye, so that's cool. Because of the curvature of the finger. And so far in that second set of 3, this is my favorite one, and that is Nebula. But on the swatches, like on my arm, you can't see the purple. It doesn't really come through, but once I've swatched on the finger, I can see the purple. That's kind of interesting. And I redid a swatch on my hand just to make sure that it wasn't just the residual of Ultraviolet in some way, but it was, like I said, it was a different finger. It just doesn't make sense. So there is a purple base to Nebula, despite the fact that, well, actually in the mirror, under the camera, I can see the purple, but in the viewfinder, it's not coming through. So maybe it's coming through for you and you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But okay, well, I'll stop fussing over it, and let's get into the next set of 3. And we are now in the second row, and we're going to be doing these 3, which are, I did not look at them, Off Balance, Galaxy, and Libra. A couple of nice mattes here. The mattes do look very usable, which is nice. These are the last 3 swatches for the arm I'm using right now. Off Balance, Galaxy, well, that's pretty, and Libra. Now, mattes are not always great looking on the first pass, so we're going to definitely double swatch them, and they should come through pretty well on the second swatch, so we'll do that right now. Okay, so let's see how these guys do. Yeah, much better. So that was Off Balance and Galaxy and Libra. Okay, much better on the second go. I'm okay with those. And fingers one last time. All right, so we are halfway through the palette, which means I'm going to switch arms and we'll get into the second half. So we're going into the second half of the middle row, and we have Crash, Momentum, and Supermoon. Now more into the beigey cream colors. Okay. Crash, Momentum, and Supermoon. Supermoon really looks like a topper, and it barely picks up on my finger. And it looks really flaky in the pan, but not so much as a swatch. Hopefully the camera's picking it up properly. And these are not at all the way I thought they were going to swatch. That's pretty interesting. I thought this one was going to be more beigey brown, and it is not. And I thought this was going to be more cream, and it is more peach-like. Interesting. All 3 swatches are different from my perception of what they should look like in the pan. Surprising, very surprising. It could be because there's kind of a pinky blue base to the palette, and that can sometimes trick the eye as far as what the colors are going to look like. Crash. Oh, super nice. Momentum. And Supernova. No, Supermoon, pardon me, Supermoon. Okay, so we have the second swatch done on these 3 and the fingers, and we're going to get into the very last row of this palette. And the very last row has the deeper shades, and so I'm very curious to see how that's going to balance out with the rest of the palette. So we have Vortex, Hot Mess, and this one is Supernova. Vortex is definitely the deepest shadow in the palette, and it's kind of a browny deep plum. And Hot Mess is a very pretty burgundy. And then we have Supernova, which is what I called Supermoon earlier, meaning I called Supermoon Supernova. All right, doesn't matter, it's my goof up. All right, so we have Vortex, which I think is a good name for this shade. And next we have Hot Mess. Okay, that did not swatch, that swatched better than a Viseart color of the same type recently. And then we have Supernova. Oh no, it wasn't a Viseart. It was from Lawless Beauty. The one palette, this type of color did not swatch well at all. So I'm happy to see that it's working better in the Huda Beauty palette. So let's do a second swatch of all of those. Okay, so we have Vortex, Hot Mess. Oh, so much better than the other one. And Supernova. And I know I have this shadow color in my collection for sure. It's very pretty, but I think it's a relatively common choice. Look at those fingers. The mattes are looking really, really good in this one. Okay, and we're already down to our last 3 to swatch. This is going relatively well as far as swatches. I heard that a number of the shadows in this Mercury Retrograde were tough to swatch, and so far I'm not having much trouble. Okay, so we have Karma, Gold Glitch, and Frazzled are the last 3. Karma, Gold Glitch, and Frazzled. Okay, Frazzled I really like. It has lime green, tiny micro shimmers in it, and that is a definite preference of mine. I love lime green. So let's go in a second time with those swatches. Yeah, I'm really liking Frazzled. It's very pretty. Okay, so we've got Karma, Gold Glitch, and Frazzled. Looking forward to seeing how that builds up. Yeah, it does. Very nice. Okay. That is the second arm. This Vortex is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, I'm going to just wipe my fingers, and we're going to superimpose the 2 sets of swatches and take a look here. Let's do this because this is the arm I swatched first. Let's take a look. It is definitely a cool tone palette, there's no question there. Funny thing is, the one that I don't like at all in this palette is Haze. I really don't. But the green, the minty green in Tiny Marvels is what I really like about that palette the most, I think, other than Death Moth for separate reasons than the color. And in this one, I really don't like Haze, so that's interesting. But what are the standout colors for me? Well, I don't think it's going to be a surprise that Ultraviolet is one of them. I also really like, is it Supernova? What's it called? No, Nebula. I also really like Nebula, and it is more purple than I thought it was in the pan, so that's kind of neat. Pretty much all the mattes, except for Haze, I like. I'm not as big on this color of a matte, but it's okay. And I do really quite like, I think this is Supernova. Yeah, Supernova. I am a big fan of Supernova, and I'm a big fan of Frazzled because of that lime green aspect to it. And I like all the pinks, especially the Dusty Rose down here. I think it's very pretty. And I like this topper, which is Super Moon. Yeah, that's the one I thought it was, Supernova. Super Moon. I think it would accentuate, give a transparent glittery topper effect on any of the mattes. So it makes the mattes more versatile that way, and I think that's beautiful. Yeah, nothing much more to say. I think all the mattes swatched really well with a second go. And the glitters and shimmers are all pretty nice. The only thing I might say is that I think that maybe only one of these two was required. It just seems a little redundant because we've got this one, this one, this one, and this one that are awfully similar. So I think that maybe two, at most three, but I don't think four of those shadows needed to be in the palette. That's a little bit much. I might have gone for a gray or a black in there, maybe a white to be able to have to lighten up any of the colors, and also to do a nice matte brow bone. That might have been nice. But overall, I think it's a good color story. I don't have a big problem with the color story. Obviously, I bought the palette. I'm happy to add another more cool toned palette to my collection because those are few and far between in my collection. Overall, I'm very happy with how it's swatched, and I'm looking forward to digging into it and using it for some looks. If you have some preferences on which color options to use for a look, please let me know. That's always nice to hear, get some ideas. And that's it. So with that, I will say thank you so much for watching this swatches video. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I always love to hear what you have to say. And I'll say see you in the next video. But for now, take care.